So what are we going to start with today? Let me ask you a question. Here's a question. What's the one thing that when you master, you'll end up mastering your life? You probably have an awareness. You know what we're talking about. It's a bit of the trailer, right? Just building up the anticipation. This is personal development foreplay, they call it, right? What is the strongest power you possess? So what's the one thing that if you master will master your life? And what's the strongest power you possess? I think you all know the answer. The answer is your mind. Your mind is the strongest power you possess. You master your mind, you'll develop the mindset to achieve success. And when you develop the right mindset, you've laid the foundation for the psychology for you to get the results that you want. Now, some people say these are the same things, your mind, your mindset, and psychology. Maybe we're chunking up. Mind might be more granular to mindset. When you say mindset, doesn't mindset mean there should be more stuff to mind? Mindset. So there's things that come together. Because when I say mindset, what do you think of? Because people say you've got to have the right mindset. Growth mindset, abundance mindset. Our mind is not set. Wait, it's not set. That's right. Very good. It's, okay, our mindset's our outlook. Okay, so does outlook mean our thinking? Is that all our mindset is? What else is, because when you think about mindset, a lot of people don't realize this. We tend to just think of outlook. We just tend to think of how we see things, our thinking, or, okay, so see things, it's our interpretation, whether it's visual, or kinesthetic, right? So it's how we interpret things. But that's still got to do with our thinking, it affects our thinking, is that right? Mindset's not just your thinking. Mindset is your whole psychology. You know what that is? It's not just your thinking, it's your feelings and your behaviors. Your mindset is responsible for your thinking, your feelings, and your behaviors. So once you think about this, people say they've got the best mindset, but their behaviors are completely out of line with that mindset. Crappy mindset, crappy psychology. You're a third of the way with the mindset stuff. Am I making any sense there? Because the mindset is a collection of your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. And when they're aligned and they're congruent, and you can see someone's behaviors aligned with their feelings, and they have emotional intelligence, they're able to control them in a way, and they're congruent with it, and they're congruent with their thinking, it's a beautiful thing to see that in a person. Wouldn't you agree? It's attractive. What's ugly in a person? Incongruency. Because incongruency is someone lying to themselves. And I bet you can see it a mile away. I mean, you see it online, all these illusionists, promoting all these things overnight. Some you know they're congruent. Some you think, well, where do they have appeared? And we compare ourselves to things which really don't exist. So your psychology, let's have a look at your psychology. Your psychology defines you guys. In this program, what we're going to do, our goal in this session, which is halfway through the whole high performance coaching, as we said, is to go deeper into the 6 pillars of high performance. So we've gone through the habits. Now we're going to go through the 6 pillars, the pillars of psychology, physiology, productivity, persuasiveness, presence, and purpose. The world's highest performers have learned to master their mind. And it takes discipline to do that. You need to create the rituals and the activities to master your mind. It's not just listening to a book or doing some hypnosis. They're tools that will help, or some NLP. They're tools that will help. But do you do that consistently is the question. Have you created a habit? Have you gone 66 days? Or maybe 3 lots of 22, as Robin Sharma says, right? The 3 steps, 22, 22, 22. Interesting, 3 lots of 22. Speaking to someone today about 3 lots of 22. There's a metaphor, right? The first 22 is a deconstruction. 22 days to deconstruct your old habits. The second 22 is when you get into the void. This is where it gets messy and confusing because you're being ripped apart. You're pulled in all areas. And the last 22, that's when you're coming out of the chrysalis and you're transforming. So let's have a look at a definition of what psychology is, guys. Let's look at what the dictionary says what psychology is. Interesting, because even the dictionary says it's not just our mind or our thinking, right? So the dictionary says psychology, it's a scientific study of the human mind and its functions. So what are the functions of the human mind? So study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. So it's interesting because even in NLP, we say we have to look at all behavior contextually, right? In one context, a behavior could be acceptable. In another context, the same behavior is not acceptable. So let's not judge the behavior. We have to have more information. Context is important. So that's in the dictionary. So essentially, when we think of psychology, psychology is a collection. It's really the big chunk. It's our thinking. And I want you to think how you got your thinking. And when you start to think something about something, just think about what must have happened in your life to have that thought. Because you have interactions with people, right? You get pissed off with people, you get angry with people. We think people do something to me. They hurt me, they left me, or they took my money. But then just stop and think. For someone to do that, they must have had a thought that led to a feeling, that led to a behavior. Isn't that right? Their behavior came from a feeling they had. And those feelings came from thinking that they had. So ask yourself this question. What must they be thinking to have that feeling, to do that behavior? And if that's what they're thinking, imagine what must have happened in their life for them to have those feelings. It might give you a different perspective of that person. And then you change the way you react to them. So if you want results in life that you never had before, you need to do the things in life that you never done before. And to do the things in life that you never done before, you need to think in life in a way that you never thought before. But see, that's the paradox, right? How can you think about what you never thought of if you never thought of not only what it is that you think, but more importantly, how it is that you think that thought? Have you ever thought about that? Thinking, our feelings, our emotions. Psychology has got to do with our emotions. So are you an emotionally intelligent being? Do you react to emotions? Do you find yourself being reactive as opposed to proactive? You get caught in the situation. And hey, it's easier to do that. Over the last couple of days, I got caught myself in a couple of situations. And of course, our behavior, because, we get caught up in the emotions, it's going to affect our behavior. But when we can detach from the emotion, understand it's come from a thinking, and that thinking's come from something's happening in our life, well, maybe we can understand it better. So let me ask you a question. What is your psychology and where it is right now? So it's all subjective, right? All subjective. Let me ask you a question, because we're talking about thinking, feeling, and behavior, right? They're the three variables we're measuring right now. So you're thinking, feeling, and behavior. Let me ask you a question. In the last 4 weeks, where would you rate your psychology on a scale of 1 to 10? Your thinking, your feelings, and your behavior in terms of congruency, positivity, or whatever's important to you. And of course, there's no right or wrong. It's just you create an awareness for yourself. Because in order for you to move the needle to where you want to go, or a little bit better, you need to become aware of where you are first. A lot of people lie to themselves. They think everything's okay until they're asked the question, are you okay? So where has your psychology been? So let's ask the next question, right? As you think of that score, why are you at that number? What's your personal chokehold? What's your personal obstacle? And again, obstacles show themselves when you're clear about where you're headed. If you don't know what your obstacles are, you're probably not clear where you're headed yet. So the next question, what would you need to do that you know you should be doing to move that number a few notches? So whatever your number is, whatever number you gave it, what would you need to do that you know you should be doing to move it forward? Guys, I can't stress this enough. Do you eat every day? What's the purpose of eating every day? To nourish your physical body. Do you speak to your coach every day? Your mind coach, your heart coach, or your spirit coach? Because you speak to them every day and work with them every day to expand your mind, to heal the heart, and to evolve your soul. Isn't that right? People think, we got that, it's pretty good. Well, how's that going for you is the question. So let's have a look at quickly how the mind works. Now, we've done this many times from an NLP perspective. I want to give you a different view. Again, this is from the high performance perspective. So I want to be sharing the work from Brendan Burchard and maybe put it together with a few other, with stuff that you've already learned from us from an NLP perspective, right? So we got our conscious mind, and here we got the unconscious mind. And all the NLP work, all the hypnosis work is to create conscious mind, unconscious mind integration. So I want you to think about, where does change take place, consciously or unconsciously? Transformation. People say, oh, you don't understand the power of the unconscious mind. It's powerful. It controls you. All your sabotage programs there. I agree. In the unconscious mind, guess what we have? We have cues. What's a cue? It's a trigger, right? We have social cues that trigger us to go into a specific pattern. Those cues trigger our conditioning, our X equals Y responses. And we react because we've attached, we understand there's consequences to certain actions or inactions. So in the unconscious mind, we've got cues, conditioning, and consequences. That affects our decisions. And they will run our life unconsciously until, guess what? You consciously make a decision to choose something else. Choice is conscious, guys. Transformation starts with a choice. Transformation starts with decision. Tony Robbins says it's in the moments of your decisions that your destiny is shaped. It's in those moments that you make a choice to either let the past control your present and your future, or make it mean something in order to evolve your present and live a better future. So we collect stuff, we collect information, and the information is going to be a cue socially. When I say social, because we're social animals, we don't do life by ourselves, guys. It's all about relationships, how we relate to ourselves and other people. It's a social interaction. There's only 2 fears that we have, like instinctive fears, and one developed fear, 3 fears. The 2 instinctive fears that we have, fear of falling down and fear of loud noises. When a baby's born, fear of falling down and fear of loud noises. Baby's not born thinking that they're not good enough. The baby's not born thinking that they're ugly. Have you ever seen a baby, when you go and tickle them or whatever, going, "Oh, don't look at me, I think I'm ugly"? "Oh, don't look at me, I'm not good enough"? "I look fat in his diapers"? Is that what a baby thinking? No, they don't have that. But they have a need for acknowledgement, for love, and how that is fostered to them. And I suppose the process, how they receive that and what they need to do, the cues they need to get off to get that, they are conditioned socially. So the greatest fear, so we have falling down, we've got loud noises, and we have social acceptance. And that's love and acknowledgement. And that's developed from the environment, guys. So we get all these cues, creates a conditioning. We understand there's certain consequences. Oh, that's great to see. That's the way. Well done, Vanessa. So we have all these things, and we say these control us. And over here, I want you, now even though we send it in NLP, I want to give you how do we process information? Because we collect information. All right? We collect information. So let's come up here. This is Brendan Burchard calls it the interpretation ladder, or the inference ladder, or the process ladder. So information comes in. What information comes in? A social cue, something from our conditioning, an awareness of consequences. Information comes in, or a choice that we have to make. That's information that comes in. Now, we know in NLP how to receive that information. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, right? 5 senses. And depending on the book you read, how much information? 11 million bits of 1 second is coming in. 11 million bits of information. So that information is consciousness. Consciousness is coming in. You're experiencing consciousness through these things, your understanding of it. So information comes in, and guess what you do? You then interpret. So there's an interpretation from you. And what's the interpretation based on? Well, we know it's based on your stories, your beliefs, your values. And again, that's NLP. That's your filtering mechanism. Once you interpret, when you give something a meaning, what happens then, guys? And I really like this analogy, because once you give it a meaning, you then have an intention to do something with that data, don't you? Because if you don't like it, my intention is to run away. Or if you like it, my intention is to maybe move into this and embrace it, or whatever the case is. So the interpretation determines your intention. So you're starting to materialize an action, and the intention then moves into you initiating, or initiative, you initiating an action. So intrinsic, extrinsic, the result. And all of this, when you think about this, all this information, right? You can say this information comes over here and comes here. So we get information coming in, we interpret it, what's the intention, and we generate initiative. And all of that is based on what? We have an identity here. Who you believe you are. Your identity determines how you interpret the information, the intention you're going to have, and the initiative that you take. Now, we may have seen this a little bit differently in other trainings, but we're talking about high performance. And what do we need to understand about how the mind works in order to generate high performance? And so if you want to perform at certain levels in your life, when I say high performance, it's not just extrinsic. High performance could be having more fulfillment in your life, more happiness in your life, more joy in your life. How do you do that? Well, what's the identity that you need to have? Because that identity will then perhaps help you interpret information differently. It'll give you a different type of thinking. That thinking will create a different type of feeling, and that feeling will create a different type of response. Am I making any sense with that? Remember, we've given you a slide from some of the training from Jim Fortin, who would I be, what would I do, and how would I feel if I already had blank? Remember that slide? Let me change it a little bit for you from what I'm saying right now, because it's important from a psychology perspective. So how do you evolve your psychology? If there was one question you can ask yourself every day, one question you can ask yourself every day to evolve your psychology. And if you ask yourself every morning, in other words, to put out what needs to happen today, and then at the end of the evening, measure how you went to be better the next day, well, things might change for you. What's that question? Let's have a look at that question. So that question is this: what would I think? How would I feel? And how would I behave if I already had blank? Interesting. Thinking, feelings, and behavior. In other words, what would my psychology be if I already had blank? Isn't that right? And guess what NLP is? Modeling excellence. So if you want to know what psychology you need to have in order to have blank, go find someone that's got blank and research them. Find out how they think. Find out how they feel. And find out what they do. And then denominalize it. Make it a process. We learned that in NLP, right? And if you can make it into a process, steps, systems, denominalize the process. Once we make them into steps, then you can achieve the same result. So what would you need to think? What would you need to feel? And what would you need to be doing or behaving in order to have? But imagine you had it. Let's reverse engineer. Time scramble. I've already got it. So ask yourself the question, all the things that you want to have in your life that you haven't got yet. So if there's things that you're still aspiring to, are you thinking as if, would your thinking be different if you had it? Would your feelings be different if you had it? And would your behaviors be different if you had it? So if you're saying yes, 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 or no, yes, no, or something, then my question is, how is it they're not there yet now? Because the only way you're going to have blank is by moving into that thinking now, moving into that behavior now, moving into that feeling now. Am I making sense, guys? So let's start. That's just a trailer on the Psychology Mastery. So we work with Psychology Mastery. So we've got some questions. So let's ask you some questions. So just record stuff, right? Because this is part of the learning process, the awareness, and then you can start thinking about what is that I need to do to start shifting that needle. So let's have a conversation here. Psychology Mastery. Question number 1. If you had to describe how your mindset made you successful to a person you were mentoring, how would you describe it? Good question, hey? Let's just think about that, yeah. Let me just unpack them first before you ask them yourselves. If you had to describe how your mindset made you successful to a person that you're mentoring, let's say you're mentoring someone, how would you describe your mindset to them? The mindset that made you successful. What's one belief that you could adopt about yourself that would make you feel more happy and more confident? Everything we work with comes down to confidence. When people are confident in themselves, they're able to do the things that they want to be doing. So it's all about self-confidence. So think about if you had that extra, if you move that needle of confidence, what would it mean for you in your business, in your career, in your health, in your relationships? Maybe in stretching yourself to do different things, exploring new avenues, having different experiences in your life. Think about a time that you felt confident. Let's create a state. Bit of NLP. What did you say to yourself? Because it's your self-talk, right? Let's play that game. I just want everyone right now, I just want you to think about a time, go back to a specific time. Can you recall a specific time that you were totally confident, that you were just so confident within yourself, right? And as you recall that time, I want you to go back to that time, float into your body, see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel the feelings of being totally confident. And as you're experiencing that right now, write down what you said to yourself. What did you say to yourself to know that you're totally confident? What are the words you used to yourself to know that you had that confidence? Write it down, because that's a strategy. Number 3, come back now. Actually, we might have to get you come back from that time. Come back all the way back to now. So do you ever find yourself focusing too much on negative thoughts and faults? Do you take that deep dive into, deep into stuff? Do you overthink shit? I mean, I overthink shit sometimes. I get caught up in this deep thinking. So what are the thoughts that we have? Do we focus on our faults, or we think we're not good enough? Do you think, I don't know, I'm selfish? If so, when does it happen, and why those specific thoughts and faults? And I'm going to tell you, when you say, when does it happen, can you note the time as well, please? Because if it's happening at a specific time of day, every day, that says something. We bring in the energy psychology, right? The Chinese medicine. Which energetic pathway, which energy, which chi, what meridian, what emotion, what learning can we get from that? How are they affecting you? And what could you do to create a healthier, more positive psychology in your life? How could you make that a habit? So there's 4 questions with some sub-questions in there. There's no right or wrong answer, right, guys? You got a copy of the questions, put some time aside to actually, these are great questions. You're getting lots of questions that you can use from a coaching template as well too when you're talking to your clients, right? So for you to have the experience, so everyone experiences the world with their own references, right? So again, thinking, feelings, and behavior. So let's ask the question, for someone to act the way they're acting, what are they feeling? What are the emotions that they're experiencing? And if they're having these emotions, what must they be thinking? And if they're thinking that, what must have happened in life? Think about the environment that they grew up in or that they may have been exposed to have led to that. So taking that vertical approach, a couple of floors above that situation, looking down, it'll give you a different perspective, maybe understand them. Now, here's the thing. Not everyone's going to be thinking like you. There's only one you, right? So here's the challenge, right? We do this work. We're in a group like this of like-minded people, and it's all fantastic. We think everyone's normal in this room or everyone like this is out there, but we go out there, not everyone is like this. Yeah. So then what do you do to maintain it? That's the thing. That's where you need to create the rituals. That's the difference between the high performers, to create the discipline to, number one, proximity is power. So who are the people that you choose to hang around? Because if you continue to hang around the people who are negative, and I'm not judging them, but that's just the way they choose to be, right? Everyone has a choice. If you're choosing to be around that, it's going to be affecting your mindset. It'll ultimately affect your thinking, your feelings, and your behaviors. So you now have to make a conscious choice. Let's not fall into unconscious patterns. You have to make a conscious choice to be intentionally, what results do I want to have? Because I want to be finding myself, obviously I want to put myself in an environment where I have different conversations, I have different thoughts, I have different feelings which I bring up within myself. So I allow myself to grow in a different way as opposed to a way where I feel suppressed. So if you find yourself being someone who you're not, if you're in an environment where you're not able to express your true self, Gia, or be your authentic self, question the environment and then make a conscious choice. What do you need to do to find a different environment? And you know what? Most times you're making choices to leave family. You're making choices to leave close friends. You're making choices to leave people that were close to you and realize, how can that happen? Well, maybe they serve the purpose. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just the way it is, right? Like we're on this planet as a journey with all the experience they have with different people. And so maybe that journey was what it was. But we tend to hold on to the past stuff. We hold on to what it once was and the feelings that we had. And we want those feelings to come back, and we stop ourselves from feeling something we never experienced before. I mean, there could be things out there which we've never even thought of or contemplated, because there's stuff that we know and the stuff that we know that we don't know. Isn't that right? But there's also stuff that we don't know that we don't know. And that's the stuff we want to go to. But if we're keeping ourselves in the stuff that we know or the stuff that we don't know, but within the known zone, we're not allowing ourselves to get into that unknown territory. And who's to say that there isn't a feeling out there that we haven't experienced yet that is even beyond what we've experienced? People say, man, I'm at a 10. I can't be better than this. Well, let's just play the game. If there was an 11, what would it be? What would an 11 be like? Shit, man, 11. Well, if this is a 10, 11 will be, okay, tell me about that. Because if you can explain it to me, describe it to me, get into the submodalities and experience of it, then it exists in your mind. So you're going to have to make a conscious choice. And maybe some of these things we're going to learn now are going to help you, give you some tools to be able to develop that psychology and create the triggers in order for you to be in a better position when you're in that